this month, 40 years ago, there was a moiridik story. Give one to Shmulik. Incredible story took place in 770. It was on wheels. On Shmini Atzeres, the Rebbe announced the 5th hakofa, that this hakofa is for the Leviim. And the Rebbe said that Chevron belongs to the Leviim. And therefore, all the Leviim should, the 5th hakofa is for the Leviim. And all the Leviim came up, and the Rebbe said, that the Baal Shem Tov said, the Mokum Yeshon Shaladam Shamu Nimtza. So therefore, when we want to be somewhere, it's as if we're there. Right now, we're in Chevron. The 5th hakofa is going to take place in Chevron.
Who was in the,
this was Tovshin Lamed Zayin, 40 years ago.
What year is that in?
76, 77.
Okay.
The Rebbe said the 5th hakofa is going to be in Chevron. Mokum Sheretzon Shalom Shamu Nimtza, 5th hakofa is in Chevron. And it was very lebedik, and there was and they sang Utzoitz of a Sufer, and it was for a very long time. Good. Next night came the Israeli consulate, the embassy. They used to come, a whole group of Israeli diplomats would come to the Rebbe. The ambassador, Israeli ambassador to the United Nations at that time was Chaim Herzog. Chaim Herzog, his father was Hagoen, Rebbe Yitzchak Isaac, the Chronin Levrocha. Herzog was chief rabbi of Israel for many years, the first chief rabbi in the establishment of the state of Israel. He was a moiridik Goen, and a very, very gentle person. And the Kfar Chabad magazine, in this Rosh, beginning of this year, interviewed his grandson. So Rabbi Herzog was the first chief rabbi establishment of the state. His son Chaim Herzog was a terrific diplomat. He was one of the presidents of the state of Israel. And his grandson, Nebuch, named for his Zayda, the Moiridik Talmud Chochem, an angelic Yitzchak Isaac Herzog, his grandson is now the head of the Israeli opposition, the head of the Israeli left. His name is Yitzchak Isaac Buji Herzog. So the Kfar Chabad magazine.
They fought for. He's fighting everything that they fought. There's answers to
the opposite.
So the Kfar Chabad magazine had an interview with him in the beginning of this year, and they published it. And here you'll take home a copy, you'll read it. I can't tell you everything tonight because we really have such limited time. But I read this article 3 times, every word. It's just fascinating
when he was
story.
A kid, his father brought him to 770.
As a kid, he said his father brought him. He was 16 years old. He brought him to Hakofas that year, and that was the year. That was the day after the Rebbe had all of a sudden stopped the Hakofas at the 5th hakofa, and the Rebbe had spoken all about the mile of Chevron, and the Rebbe had spoken all about how Chevron belongs to the Levim, and that in the 5th hakofa the Levim are going to dance, and they're going to dance, and we're all going to dance in Chevron. So Yitzchak Isaac Herzog, first he said that he knew his grandfather was very close to the Rebbe because they were both in Sorbonne at the same time. His grandfather studied biology, oceanic biology, and he later used it he wrote a monumental work on the tchelis. He had an opinion about the trunculus, the tchelis, and he did a very, very extensive amount of work. I think his PhD was based on the tchelis, and he was friendly with the Rebbe. The Rebbe was then at the same time also in the Sorbonne, and he was learning electrical engineering. So he said that his Zayda, one second, and this goes with it. His Zayda was friendly with the Rebbe. His father was very close to the Rebbe. His father had many yechidus with the Rebbe. His father at that time was the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, and United Nations. Oh, it's the same always. It was at that time. The United Nations there was a whole tumult that Chevron doesn't belong to. There's no historic connection of Chevron to the Jewish people. Just like UNESCO now in Jerusalem, it's the same. 40 years ago today, it's all. If you read a news clip from 40 years ago, So they said it's not true. So he says like this. The whole Israeli consulate and the ambassador, the whole group came, and the Rebbe was still farbringing. The Rebbe then started the Hakofis. And he was 16 years old. His father brought him close to the Rebbe, that the Rebbe should give him a brocha. And he said that the Rebbe gave him a brocha, and his father was like a very, very cold person. So his father became very, very emotional. Then the Rebbe turned to his father, and the Rebbe said that I want you to know that Chevron belongs to you, because you are a Levi. His father was the Levium. Wow. You are a Levi. I want you to go back to the United Nations and hold a. So he was considered a Pemak Magolius. His sermons were considered, they were world-class sermons. He wrote a book against the nations, all the sermons that he had in the United Nations. I mean, he was like Bibi Netanyahu. The guy he was dynamite. The Rebbe said, I want you to get up and explain that you are a Levite, and the Levites own Chevron, and therefore it belongs to you and your father and your son. And the Rebbe pointed to the son. The guy's now the head of the left opposition of Israel.
You're comparing him to Netanyahu.
I'm not comparing him. I'm telling you that Netanyahu is the head of the right, and he's now. I'm telling you a story.
I think who was a better person, a spokesman for the Israelis in the UN after the '67 war. What was the name that British accent?
No, what's it called? Weizmann.
Oh, no, a heavy British accent speaking.
Oh, he spoke against the Shluchim. Yehuda Avner.
No. Okay. Is Herzog. Herzog, because his father was, he grew up in Ireland. No, I know what you're talking about. There was someone else. Okay. Kitzur, the Rebbe said, I'd like you to explain it, and if they tell you and the Rebbe said, I want you to explain that there's 11 psukim in the Torah, the Bible, that the whole world believes in the Bible, and that it says explicitly that Chevron was the first place that belonged to the Jewish people, and he bought it b'kesef mole, and that was the first transaction that happened recorded in the Torah. And if they tell you want to return the money, you have to tell them in 3,000 years, 400 shekel grew a tremendous amount of interest. We need to calculate the interest. And the Rebbe insisted, the bottom line was that Yitzchak Isaac Herzog said his father not only gave a terrific sermon using the Rebbe's argument, but he asked Kurt Waldheim, which was then the secretary general of the
Nazi.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So he asked him to circulate a pamphlet about Chevron, and the pamphlet started with all the 11 psukim, and Mr. Herzog said that even though he said that this agreement has been made, is not recorded in the annals of the United Nations, because it was made a little earlier than the establishment of the United Nations. He said this is 4,000 years old. This is the city of our patriarch Avraham Avinu, the first Jew and the establisher of the first religion in one God. He said this city is, even the Arabs recognize a Jewish, because when they came there and they built the mosque on the place of the Moras Machpelah, right, they called it the Mosque of Ibrahim. So they recognized that the significance of the place. Right, they recognized that the significance of the place, and he told a story, and when he spoke that his grandmother lived in Rabbi Say, that there is what? Where?
Police officers.
Wow, where's the one?
They're looking for somebody that's not here.
Oh. So he said that his Baba was actually massacred in 1929, and as a child he remembered Hebron. So the bottom line was that he followed through on the Rebbe's thing to make him, he gave out this pamphlet, and in the pamphlet he had, like they have here, an appendix in the pamphlet. He had the whole layout of the Moras Machpelah, an entire explanation about the significance of the Umaras of Machpelah.
And now they want to make the Temple Mount the same. They're looking to take it away.
As I say, 40 years ago, what happened to Chevron is the same.
That's
The
happening
Rebbe,
to the Temple Mount,
Yeah.
UNESCO.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Interesting that Netanyahu also the Rebbe told him to speak in the UN. He says a little light, a little candle could make a lot of light,
Uh-huh.
and he used it.
Read the article when you go home.
Says, we're going to make a UN over here in 770.
Lamed Aleph, right? The Rebbe made its own. They made votes, and the Rebbe. Then what happened was that the Rebbe asked that this boy should say one of the 12 psukim. It's like Isaac should say, and the Rebbe said that they should give him the Sefer Torah, the little Sefer Torah of the Rebbe. They gave him. He was 16 years old, a boy. And they used to always give one hakafah to the Israeli diplomats. So they gave him the little. He said, I and the little Sefer Torah got more kisses than anyone.
So how does he hold now, the grandson?
I don't know where he holds now, but he says he remembers the Rebbe's words to his father as if it happened yesterday. And he remembers the Rebbe's bracha as if it happened yesterday. He says that over the years he's traveled around the world as an Israeli diplomat, and he has very, very warm feelings to Chabad, and he knows how much Chabad accomplished and all the Chabad houses. Hopefully he will keep on doing a terrific job from the benches of the opposition in Israel for many, 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 many years until Mashiach comes.
Amen.
Hopefully he'll keep on doing a good job. The end of the story was that the Rebbe in Cheshvan, the Rebbe said that the Lubavitchers that were in 770 at the Chevron Hakofa, when they come back to Israel, they should go to Chevron and continue the Hakofa. The fifth Hakofa from 770 that was in Chevron, they should continue it in Chevron. So in Cheshvan, there were buses that went from Kfar Chabad, Yerushalayim, Lubavitch, and they continued the fifth Hakofa from 770 that was in Chevron. They continued it in Chevron.
Wow.
In Cheshvan, huh?
In Cheshvan. And there was no kidding. The Rebbe said that everyone that was there, and someone that couldn't go, they should at least pay money, be mishtatem, the Dmei Nesiyah. That was for sure something ruchni. It was something that happened 40 years ago.
Because it had very important, obviously.
It was very, very important. So
I remember one of the Tzahal guy was interviewed with the Rebbe in Nichilis, and then he told the Rebbe, "You have American passport. Why don't you go to Chevron and claim as American that you want Chevron to belong to the Jew?" So the Rebbe told him, "I don't want as American. I want it as an Israeli, as a Jewish to come, not as American."
It's Israel.
So you are Israeli passport. You go and say it's mine. you put the ball on me. You stamp what I put on you back.
It's going to be with Jerusalem.
And he went back to Israel and he put it in the newspaper. That's how I know.
Wow.
Like he wasn't shy, you know. He was like saying
He
stuff.
tried to do it.
okay, when you come home and read the article, it's fascinating. So that's Fabrengen and Simchas Torah. By the Rebbe spoke by the fifth of Kofa, Shmini Atzeres, about the importance of Chevron and why Chevron belongs to the Levium. And then the Rebbe spoke about it by the Yakofa. The Rebbe spoke about it by the Fabrengen, and the Rebbe continued explaining his thoughts that Shabbos Bereshis. So I'm sure all that Mr. Herzog doesn't recall or not necessarily understood, but this is now the Rebbe later was Magia the Sicha, and it's a Sicha in Lekuti Sichos, and it's a very, very sweet Sicha, and that's the Sicha we're going to learn tonight. The Sicha that the Rebbe said in connection with the fifth Hakofa that took place in Chevron in 770.
Wow.
Okay. So here's a copy. Let's hand out the copies of all the sources that we're going to use tonight.
Thank you.
You can give one to Peretz if you'd like. I gave you a copy. Right. Okay. L'maisa, the first place that even though the Eibusha said Lazarach and Osati, I gave this land, Kumis Halach Baretz, the first place that the Jews bought was Chevron, and it's recorded as Chevron. And Chazal say, Shloisha Mekaymes She'enu Masaylam Yecholam Lahoynes Yisrael Laim Gzulas Em Beyetchem Ve'elam Moritz Machpelah Beis HaMikdash Ukvarosa Shal Yosef. There's 3 places the nations of the world can't say, well, you steal this place. That you say, we bought this place. And the first one is Moritz Machpelah. Why is it that's so special about Chevron, that Chevron is the first place that was purchased by the Jewish people? What's so the first place that the ownership of the Jews in Eretz Yisrael in the Holy Land starts with Chevron? What's so special about Chevron? So let's start with the Medrash here, the Medrash in this week's Parsha, and then we'll go into the uniqueness of Chevron and down to.
When Moshe sent them Magna, where's the first place they came in? Chevron.
Well, Chevron was a big deal. They went to daven in Chevron, right? Kalev went to daven with Yeshua. They went to daven in Chevron. They shouldn't fall into the trap, right? Medrash Rabbah Sefer Bereshis Perek Nun Ches Dalet. Atoma Sora B'Kiryas Arba. This is this week's parsha. Dalet Shemes Nikrula. Why is it called Kiryas Arba, the city of 4? Eshkol Mamre Kiryas Arba. Chevron. Alomo Kodesh Kiryas Arba Shedor Bodalat Tzadikim. There's 4 tzadikim that lived there on that Eshkol Mamre. Avram. These 4 people lived there. We spoke about it this Shabbos, the 4 friends. On that Eshkol Mamre Avram Avinu. And in Boilo Bo Dalat Tzadikim, 4 tzadikim did their bris milah there. Avram on that Eshkol Mamre. The Baracha Kiryas Arba Shenikra Bo Dalat Tzadikim. 4 tzadikim were buried there. Odom Rishon Avram Yitzchak Yaakov. The Baracha Shek Dalat Amos, the 4 mothers. Chava Sarah Rivka Leah. Hashem Balem Shen Dalat Onak.
It's funny, doesn't Rashi say it refers to giants? Does it say giants?
Oh, that's right. It's a Shehain that there is the Anak and his 3 sons. Amr Bazaria Shemasham Yotza Avram Avinu Shenod Va'acher Malchias.
Strange that Rashi should choose.
Why should I choose this from so many?
Choosing like Goyim,
right?
To reflect.
Right. So
the
that's
holy place.
That's a good question. This year we said we're not going to go to the Shuta Shamikra Avenue. So
let's think about it now.
Right. And the last thing the Medrash says, Oile bekarnasin shel dalet. It was 4. There was a goydel. 4 people won the goydel over Chevron. Betchila Yehuda, the goydel went that Chevron will go to as a part of Yehuda. Va'achech leKolev, the goydel said it'll go to Kolev, because they remember, like Shmulik just mentioned, Kolev went to daven there, and therefore he got Chevron. Va'achech leLevim, then it went to the Levim. Va'achech leKohanim, then it went to Kohanim.
What stake do they have?
Well,
it's so special that the Levim should have.
so what's so special about the Levim
Got Chevron.
and Chevron? Okay. So that's a good question. That's what we're going to deal with tonight. So first, the Nigla. What's the connection of the Levim and Chevron? So first, before we continue to look at this Medrash. The Medrash says the many reasons why Chevron is called Kiryas Arba, the city of 4. And one of the reasons is because it was the place that 4 people got the goydel to have this portion of the land. When you say 4 tzaddikim were buried there, you say the 4 ovis were buried there, the 4 imoas, it makes it very special. What's so special that 4 people got a portion in Chevron? What's the uniqueness here? So let's talk about what's Chevron. Chevron is historically one of the 6 Ori Miklat. The Torah says that if a person kills b'shoigig, then you have to go to be protected in one of the 6 Ori Miklat.
The city of refuge.
Cities of refuge. There was also 42 cities of refuge. 6 plus 42 equals 48. There was 48 cities. 42 were cities that belonged to the Levim. All the Shvatim were obligated to set aside some cities that were for the Levim. The Levim didn't get a portion of the land. And we're going to learn all this now in the Chumash in Parshas Matas Maseh, and then we're going to read it in Yeshua, and then in the Rambam, which is Halacha. We're going to read it from the Torah, the Nevi'im, and then the Halacha. They didn't get a portion of the land, but they got 42 cities, and plus they got 6 cities. and those cities were for the Levim to live, but it was also Ori Miklat. General difference, you say, what's the difference between the 42 cities and the 6 cities there? I mean, so say 48 cities. So the Gemara explains that the difference is that there's a difference because if a Ritzeach, a killer, falls into one of the 6 cities, even though accidentally, he doesn't know he's a Chevron. He just took a taxi, he walked out, he realized he's somewhere, but he doesn't know where he is, he's already protected. In the other 42 cities, he has to go with the intention that he's going to be protected. So that's one difference, major difference between the 42 cities and the 6 cities. The bottom line is the 48 cities belong to the Levium, but it was also a city of refuge. Let's learn in Parshas Matas Masad, Bamidbar Perek Lamadei Posek Aleph. The Teibishe spoke to Moshe. Tzavas b'nei Yisrael v'nosna l'Levim v'nachlas achuzosam oris l'Shavas. You should give them city. Umigrish l'Harim should say tifkin l'Levim. They should also not only give them cities, but they should give them a piece of land called a migrosh around the cities, so the cattle can graze there. The city will be for them to live, and the migrosh will be for their cows to graze. The pasuk continues, and there's a few psukim that we're missing out here. These are the cities you should give to the Levim. The 6 are in Miklat. And on top of that, 42 cities total. You should give them a total of 48 cities. SM, the cities, VS Migrishayim, and also the Migrish, the land around the cities. So when we read at the end of Yeshua, after all the wars, and after the Jews succeed, Vaydaber Hashem al Yeshua Leimer, Daber Abnei Yisrael Leimer, Tenu lochem es Ori HaMiklat, asher debarta aleichem b'yad Moshe. The Eibush said, you should now make the Ori Miklat. Lo neshama retzech makach negesh shgoge b'livdas, a person who is a killer accidentally. Ve'yagdishu es kadosh b'golil b'har Naftali v'es Shechem b'har Ephraim v'es Kiryas Arba Chevron b'har Yehuda. Mei v'yad yerechem es rochenos es betzer b'midbar b'mishra matala v'es aromas b'gilud b'matala don v'es goylam b'boshem b'mata menashe. We're holding pasuk test. The Gemara explains that if this was Israel, which is it's not correct, but say that this is the Jordan. This was the land of Israel. The line in the middle is the Jordan River. Mm-hmm. So here is the 3 cities on the one side. So you have Chevron, Shechem, and which was the other city? Chevron, Shechem, and Kedesh. Kedesh is on the top, and then you had the other 3 on the other side. So there's equal distance all over Israel, equal access to get into the Ori Miklat. Chevron, Shechem, Kodesh, and then there's the other 3 cities.
But there's so many murderers that does the Gemara talk about that there were really then through the generations, but they're really. There's so much talk about that there should be a mitzvah. But
majority of the city can't be murdered. Majority of the city can't be murderers. If majority of murderers, then it doesn't work. It has to be majority. Has to be not non-murderers. But that you're asking a good question. That's another issue to deal with. There doesn't have to be even one murderer in the city. It's just a city of refuge. That's just the way it is. If
Arei Miklat doesn't mean that they have to be used. They have to have it.
But they have to have it. So, therefore, it was spread out. It was spread out equally in the entire Israel. Okay. These are the 6 main cities, and then the 42 cities were also spread out equally in the entire Israel. Pasuk Tes Eloi Orei Hamor de L'Chol Bnei Yisrael V'Lager Agar B'Soicha. Look in the next Perek, Yeshua Perek Chafal, V'itnu Lemes Kiryas Arba. They gave Kiryas Arba via Anoi ki Chevron, Bahar Yehuda ves Megroshetz v'Seo, Ve'eis Deo Ir ves Chatzereh Nosna L'Kolov ben Yefuna b'Chazose. They gave it to Yehuda, but they also gave it to Kolov ben Yefuna, Livnei Aaron HaKohen Nosna Seir Miklot HaRetzech es Chevron ves Megroshetz.
So call him get Chevron.
Yeah, and also the Levium got Chevron.
Maybe he was a Levi.
Rambam. Hilche Shmita v'Yovel, Perek Yud Gimel Aloch Aleph. Let's read quickly. Shevet Levi Afal B'Shem Lo Chelik Ba'eretz. The Shevet Levi do not have a portion in the land, and in Aloch Yud the Rambam say it's forbidden for them to have a piece in the land.
Yeah.
It's forbidden for the Levim to take a piece in the land. Kvar Netztavi Yisrael Litlahem Orim Lashavas Migrashem. The Jews were commanded to give them cities to live in, and also the plots around the cities. Va'orim em sheish ari miklot. They got 6 ari miklot. Va'aleim on top of the 6. Arboim mishtayim here 42 cities. K'meshifin ari miklot acheres b'mayashiach hakol alavim. When Mashiach will come, there's going to be more cities of refuge, like the Rambam explains in detail in Hilchas Malachim, and those cities will also be given to the Levim.
Can maybe rent a house in Israel? That's not.
No problem.
Ownership. It's ownership.
Ownership, yep. Ownership, not just ownership. Ownership as a achuza, as this is my land.
You can't have it.
Right. Noitzlim l'chol ir beis hakvoris. Every city they do a beis hakvoris. Chutz l'tchum zesh and kavri meisem l'chutz l'oreim. They give to every city of these 48 cities. There should be a place for a cemetery. Shnem m'greshem l'lehenta l'chutzim l'chachiyosam l'chaim nikra l'lekpure. The cities are only, and the migrash are only for living, not for kvura. Not allowed to bury the dead, not in the city, not in the migrash. So therefore, every one of the 48 cities need a designated plot for burial. Kohanim v'levim shamochnu stem b'zdei oreim. If a Kohen or Levi sell a field from their fields, oy bayis and bot orechem or a house, ein goylem kaseder hazeh l'moichem asodus afila samach liyovel v'goylem miyad v'mekdush asod goylem miyad ha'egdush la'acher yovel v'goylem bot orechem kol zman shiritz afila achi kamashon Hashem gulas elam tila levim. There's usually rules. If you sell a field, you can't buy it back at least 2 years, and then you only can buy it back after that till yovel. And if you sell a house, it's the opposite. You can only buy it back within a year. That if you have a nachla in Israel and you sold your house, you can have a seller's remorse. Within 12 months, if you decide you want to buy it back, if it's your house which is achuza, you could buy it back. All these laws are suspended by Levim. Levim, doesn't matter if they sold it or if they sold it to hektish. If it was a field or a house, they can always redeem it. They can always go to the buyer and say, sorry, sir, I decided I want my house back. So I bought it, here's the money. Have a nice day, my house goes back.
I
want my field.
Something is like if you're renting it.
Yeah, you can never get a full sale. In these 48 cities, there's never a full sale. In all the other Eretz Yisrael, there's laws. They're very complex. Depends if it's a house, depends if it's a field. There's, like we said, he has 12 months in a house, 2 years in the field. All these rules are suspended. A Levi can always buy back his house or his field, doesn't matter why and when he sold it, and to who he sold it. He decides that before or after Yovel, he can always buy it back. Let's continue. Why didn't they get a piece of the land? They're separated to serve Hashem. They have to teach the ways of Hashem to the Yidden. They teach it to Yaakov and Yisrael. They're different than the rest of the world. They don't do war. They don't acquire from the koyach of their body. They're Hashem's army, the Levim. And the
Yisrael is responsible.
You came for the right year, but you missed the first 15 minutes. The story about Chaim Herzog coming to 770. I'll give you the article. You can read it later, or you watch the thing online later. It's fascinating.
Yisrael is responsible for supporting.
For supporting the Levi, yes. Yes. Okay, so now we just this was just a small synopsis of what the Torah tells us is about the din of the 48 cities. The breakdown is the Levium get 6 cities plus 42 cities. These are Ori Miklat, and these are also the cities of the Levium. As we said, Chevron is one of the 6 cities, and they were equally distributed in Eretz Yisrael. Chevron was here, Shechem, then Kodesh, and then the other 3 on the other side. Okay. So here is where the Rebbe started talking about the uniqueness of Chevron. Number one, we see that the Chevron has, as one of the Ori Miklot, as one of the 48 cities of the Levium, it's such a strong ownership that it doesn't matter why they sold it, to whom they sold it, to regular, to hektish, before Yovel, after Yovel, if it's a field, if it's a house, always can buy it back. That means it's a very strong bias, a very strong ownership. There's no such thing as losing ownership. The Levium always have ownership on it. Number two is something unique about Chevron. Something unique about Chevron that is different than all the other 48 cities. Why is it different? So here is where you have to a little bit halt cup, but it's fascinating, the laws of the 48 cities of the Levium. There seems to be a weakness in the ownership of Levium. They're not allowed to. The Torah says they're not allowed to have a land. The Torah emphasizes that these cities is orim lo sheves. The cities only to sit in. In other words, there wasn't real ownership, it seems. Kol shevet Levim was horim shalayin chalo b'eretz Knan. There wasn't real ownership.
Were they in transit? Were the people always in transit going to these cities? Like
they weren't in transit, but they didn't have real ownership. Why?
Did they live?
They lived there. They lived, families for hundreds of years. But Yerushalmi says that when every 3rd and 6th years you have to go to the Beis Hamikdash and give vidui that you did all the ma'aseres, that you did all the trumas and ma'aseres, and the din is that you have to that the person that doesn't own land doesn't say vidui ma'aser. We have a minute that if Erev Pesach is in Shabbos, we say a special hatoira called v'orva, because over there it says v'via ma'aseres is al beis ha'oitze. So,
The rest of the world says
whatever. That the reason for that is because that was the time, perhaps at a Pesach, had that last days of Pesach, first days of Pesach. But I'm just saying, there's still a minute that we do to commemorate this mitzvah, the year 3 and 6, that the Yid had special prayer and special vidui to say that he said, "I declare that I did all my mitzvahs and trumas and ma'aseres." Person has no land.
Where's that tefillah?
That's the haftorah we say when Erev Pesach happens to be on Shabbos. That's a common minhag. It's brought in Shulchan Aruch. If you look in the Chumash later, you'll find it. And the reason for that is brought in Shulchan Aruch because year 3 and 6, Pesach time was a time when they made this vidui, and therefore to commemorate that we do this haftorah. So the Yishami says, how about a Levi? Could a Levite say this? It's a machloikis. Remei Reb Yosi. What's the machloikis? One opinion, Remei says, Orim Lashevis, they didn't own anything. They just had residents.
They don't have a place.
They didn't have permanent ownership. They were residents. Had green cards.
Well, they owned their houses.
They owned it. But Remei says that still, that Remei Herzog that Eine Misvada Shaloi Not Lu Chelak Ba'aretz Lebeis Dira Nitnu Lahem V'lo Shia Nachlosam V'achuzasam. Rabbi Yosi argues. Rabbi Yosi says no. L'machloikas nitnu. What does it mean? L'machloikas nitnu la'avim lechelkum l'achuzasam. That was their achuzah, so they could say vidui ma'aser. And the Rambam paskins in the end of Hilchas Ma'aser Sheni that they could say ma'aser. That means that it does belong to them. It does belong to them. However,
in one hand we said that the karka, the land, the Levi could never take it away from himself. It's always going to be belong to him.
Right.
Whoever it is. And the second hand we say he can't bring Ma'aser because it's not him.
Right.
So it's his or it's not his.
Right, that's what we're talking about here. Exactly, that's what we're talking about here. But we see that the Lepoil, we pass them like Rabbi Yosi, that they could say vidui. Why? Because it does belong to them. However, when it comes, that's 42 cities. When it comes to the 6 cities, there's another halacha the Yerushalmi says. The Yerushalmi says because it doesn't belong to them. According to the mayor also holds that a person who goes to a murderer who ends up being in one of the 6 cities doesn't have to pay rent. This is like
Only in the
liberalism on steroids. It's not rent control. No rent.
No rent.
No rent. No rent. They could live, no rent. As long as the Kohen Gadol is alive, the Kohen Gadol dies, they kick out all the residents. But as long as the Kohen Gadol is alive, all the Rotzchim come there, they don't pay the Levium rent. Why? So the Yerushalmi says, because it's the mayor, it's L'Shavis, you could live there, but it doesn't really belong to you, so how can you collect rent? You can't collect rent for someone living in a house that doesn't belong to you. And the Rambam paskins that way, that in the 6 Orei Miklat you can't collect rent.
Only the 6 Orei Miklat.
Only in the 6 Orei Miklat.
Chevron is one of them.
Yeah, so the Rebbe has a chidush. The Rebbe says that that's very nice according to Yerushalmi, but that's not according to the Bavli. Why? Because the Gemara in Bavli says a different reason why you can't collect rent. The Gemara says it's a posuk. V'hoyer lachem ha'orim l'miklot, lachem l'chol tzracheichem. That the Torah says that there's a special limud in the posuk. That the Torah says, why do you need a posuk? If you're going to live in a building and I don't own it, say I want to collect rent from you. So you're going to say, I need a posuk that I can't collect rent from you? I don't belong, it doesn't belong to me. You're going to drive on the Manhattan Bridge. I'm going to come there and flag you down and say I'm taking $8 toll. Why? You want on my bridge? So you're going to have to bring a posuk that you don't have to give me $8 toll? Move aside, this is not yours. Why does the Gemara bring in the Bavli a posuk? That the Eibishter says that there's a special thing, lachem, l'chol tzorachechem, that the Roitzeach, the Eibishter gives them like a voucher. You go there, you don't have to pay rent. Why do we need a posuk? If the Levim don't own it, they don't own it. So we see that the Bavli really doesn't hold of the Yerushalmi. The Bavli holds that it 100% belongs to the Levim. Not like the Yerushalmi. That really belongs to the Levim. It 100% belongs to the Levim. So therefore we see that there's 2 things. That the Orei Miklat have, and all the cities of the Levim have 2 things. Number one, that the ownership is, that even if they sell it, they can buy it back. And according to the Bavli, it really belongs to them. It really belongs to them. So here is where the Rebbe has this beautiful chidush. When you think about the 48 cities, or the 6 cities, one way to think about it is there's 2 separate things. These 48 cities are cities of refuge, also happen to be the Levim live there. You know, why not? Let's try to knock them all together. You know, let's try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We need to put the Levim somewhere. We need to put the murderer somewhere. Real estate is expensive. We got 48 cities. Let's shove them into the same city. The Levim might complain, but they don't belong to the union. No one's going to care about the Levim's complaints. So let's just hack them in the same city. It's not, doesn't make sense that way. Not mustaber that way. It's mustaber to say that because they were the cities of the Levim, therefore they became the Orei Miklat. And that's the way it sounds in the Psukim. Because in Matas it says, you should give the cities to the Levim, you should give them 42 cities and 6 cities, and then the Torah says you should designate those cities as Orei Miklat. First they should be cities for the Levim, and then Orei Miklat. And the Rebbe says it's mefurish in the Chinuch. The Chinuch was a Rishon. He says, why did they put the murderers and the Levim together? So he says it's very simple, because the Levim were very holy. So ulei techaper aleim atmosam hamukudeshes b'kedushasam. Because their holiness of the Levim will be machaper on the murderers. The Rebbe says that you could save him more. What does a murderer do? A murderer is pirut, to separate the ultimate of separation.
Like,
Take away a family member from his family. It's a sin which is bein adam lechaveiro, the ultimate sin between man to man, the ultimate betrayal, the ultimate pirut. Nebuch, the person is separated from the land of the living. And it's a pirut between a Yid and the Eibishter. It's one of the 10 Commandments. It's a transgression between, it's an Aveda ben Adam Lavakim and Adam Chavedi. And it's the ultimate pirut. It's the ultimate separation. What is Levim? What does the word Levi mean? You love Ishi Elai. And in this Yelova that the Levium do, that they connect two things. Their job is Huvda Lavadas Hashem L'Sharsai. Their job is that they should connect the Jews to the Eibishter. As the Pasuk says, that they have to teach the Yidden, they teach the Yidden how to come close to Hashem. And also, they connect with the Jews. So they help the Jews connect with each other, and they help the Jews connect with Hashem. So a murderer is the ultimate of separation, and the Levim, we want the murderers to live with the Levim. So the Levim will help them learn how to heal that wound of separation.
Is it a form of tshuva for them?
That's going to help them do tshuva. The Levim are going to help them do tshuva, to reconnect to Hashem and to reconnect to other human beings. Why is a person a murderer? The ultimate of is because they disconnect, even though it's accidental. Even though it's accidental, there's something right. And to murder is something. The ultimate of a disconnect. A murderer is the ultimate of a disconnect. He not only can't feel someone's pain, but the other person's life is so worthless. He can't feel it. He can't feel someone else altogether. He can kill someone. It's the ultimate of separation. There's people that are compassionate, and people not so compassionate. They wouldn't hurt someone. They will hurt someone and kill them. Kill them is the ultimate of carelessness. And the Levim help to heal that wound by Yelov, to help them to connect with the Eibusha, to connect with their other human beings. And therefore, going back, that's why they're not two separate things. It's not that the 48 cities are cities of the Levim. They're also cities of refuge. No, because they are cities of the Levim, that's why they're cities. That's why the Torah says, first you make them 48 cities for Levim, then they will become 48 cities of refuge. That's, and therefore the Rebbe has an interesting thing. In the sixth, the Rebbe asks, for example, Reb Chaim Briska asks, what's a coin? Is a coin a Levi plus? Or a coin there's a coin a Levi?
Yeah.
And it's nafkaminas. The same thing here. The Rebbe asks, what's the 6 Ori Miklat and the 42? Is it that like this? There's 48 cities of Levites. And then there's 6 that are Levite plus. They are the diamond. There's like, Costco, you have the regular membership and the gold and the diamond, yeah? So there is the regular membership. That if you go in, that you have to declare that I'm here for Ori Miklat. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And then there's the gold city. The gold is, if you just plop in, you don't know what it is, it works for you, because that's the gold. That's the diamond, that's sapphire, whatever it is. They always keep on giving, higher levels of creating. So what would be the difference? Because the difference in halacha would be like this. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu did the 3 cities on the one side of the Jordan, and even though they're not going to work, because they're not going to work until all 6 cities are established. He said, but mitzvah she'av, I want to do the mitzvah anyway. But we know that these 6 cities are all connected. If you have 3 cities and you don't have the other, or 4 cities, you have all 6 need to function for the business to function. If you have 5 and not 6 cities, none of them are working. But they could still work as one of the Levite cities. Because if a person walks into one of these cities before, say when Moshe Rabbeinu did these 3 cities, and a Ritzeach goes in there and he says, "Oh, I'm here in the Levite city," that will be a city of refuge for him. Why? So because it's not only because it's not like there's 42 cities of Levim, 6 cities of refuge. No, all 48 cities are cities of Levim. 6 cities are Costco plus. They're Levim plus. And therefore, they also help when a person doesn't know if he goes in. And therefore, even if there's not 6 cities or 5 cities, it'll still work. And the Rebbe says that the Mistaber, that all 48 cities were really cities of Levim. Because in order to be an Ori Miklat, you first have to be a city of Levim. Because it's not 2 separate things. The Eibusha said, when there will be a city of Levim, that will, because what's a city? What's a Levim? Levim is the union of Torah, and Torah does refuge, like the Maral says, Divrei Torah Koiltin, and the Levium are teaching Torah to the Eden. So therefore, that's the idea. So now going back to the city of Chevron. So now we understand what the Medrash is saying. Medrash is saying that this city was a city that Oila B'Kurnasin Shel Dalet. We said that the 48 cities of the Levim were not L'Sheves. Were not there for them. It was only there L'Sheves. Only for them. It was temporary. But according to the Bavli, they were not temporary. They really belonged to them 100%. So what is the Torah saying L'Sheves? Because it wasn't given to the individual Levim. It was given to the Shevet Levi. It was given to Shevet Levi. But there was one exception of the 48 cities. In the city of Chevron, that it was not only given to the Shevet Levi, but it was also given to individuals. Kolev got it as an individual. He got the whole or part or something in the city of Chevron as an individual. So all the 48 cities of the Levim were given by Klal Yisrael to the Klal of the Levim. But it wasn't given necessarily to every Levite as an individual. But here it says the Medrash, Kiryas Arba, that the Oile Bekurnash Shel Arba, Betchila Liyod Vachech Lekol Vachech Levim Vachech Lekoinim, that over here the Chidush is that it was also a Bailas Protis, that Kolev actually had his individual rights in the city. So that was
Kolev did not have his nachala in Chevron itself. He had it only in the surrounding areas,
right,
because he was not a Levi.
Right. Okay. But the still the Torah in the pasuk calls it Yericha. Whatever it is, the pasuk calls it Yericha.
Didn't we say that the Kvora
In the
Chevron, you mean?
Bet HaKvorot,
I'm sorry, Chevron.
Bet HaKvorot, they have to be separate.
Oh, ooh, you.
doing Bet HaKvorot,
Oh yeah, I almost forgot the main thing here. The Rogatchover has a beautiful pshat. What was the conversation? So let's summarize, and then we'll get to the Rogatchover. This was supposed to be the beginning. Now, it's good that you reminded me. So let's summarize. So we see that there's something unique about all the 48 cities of the Levium. Therefore, because of the city of Levium, therefore could be a refuge. Chevron is one of those 48 cities. But what's unique about Chevron over all the 48 cities, that there was a Bailas Protis. A Kolev had a Bailas Protis in this city, or around the city, or whatever it was called, part of the municipality of Chevron. So back to the story of the beginning of this week's parsha. So the Rogatchover says that this was the conversation between the Avram Avinu and Bnei Ches. Avram says right in the beginning, he says, I want to have B'Kitzei Sodeyu. B'Kitzei Sodeyu. What is it? Why is it B'Kitzei Sodeyu? Why does he want B'Kitzei Sodeyu? So Avram Avinu said, I know Chevron is one of the 6 cities, one of the 48 cities. The din is that you can't have a cemetery in it. Because we had just had it in the Rambam, clearly. It says, L'chaim nitnavla l'kvura, shein kovrim eseim, l'tchumoreim. If a person is buried in the city of the Levim, what do? Take him out. From said, I'm not interested in that. That they kick me out of here. They can move my body. So the people said, "No, Nesiya lekim ata b'soichenu. You're a king, and the din is kever melech v'nosi ein mefanim." Therefore, in Yerushalayim, they said there was Kedchulda. David the Melech was able to be buried in Yerushalayim, and also in the same thing in the 6 cities of refuge. If a Melech is buried there, they don't take him out. That's why he said, I want B'Kitzei Sodeyu. I want it outside. Because Chevron?
I wanted the Chevron, but
outside, right, the corner. They said, nah, don't worry about it. Take it easy. Nesiya lekim ata b'soichenu. You're the king. The king, don't worry. No one's going to bother you. Even though it's a city of refuge, even though it's one of the cities of the Levim, you're not going to be moved. You're not going to be moved. And now, the Rebbe says that we could think, if you think about Chevron, there's another inyan in Chevron that's a refuge for killers. Why? because there's a beautiful letter from the Mittler Rebbe. You know that the Mittler Rebbe was very, very, very big into settling Chevron. The Chabad Rabbeim were very, very into Chevron, and everyone of the Chabad Rabbeim spent a tremendous amount of energy on Chevron. The Rebbe Rashab bought a huge plot of land and a house. Chizke the Medini lived there, and he wrote the Stei Chemed in that house. And till today, the Rebbe retained ownership on it. The Rebbe gave it to the yeshiva in Chevron that used it. There's a few hundred Talmidim in the yeshiva. But the Rebbe, even though he gave them, the Rebbe gave them the permission to use the Beit Romano, the Rebbe maintained ownership, and the Rebbe will sell it in Chametz every year. He maintained his house in Chevron. So if you go today to Chevron, you go today, it's a beautiful yeshiva. There's a few hundred students there. It's a beautiful, beautiful yeshiva. It's a Mizrachi yeshiva. And the Rebbe said he wants to maintain ownership on the building, but he's letting them use it. I mean, it's like that. Don't worry. It's like they have it. It's just the Rebbe wanted as a spiritual thing to maintain the ownership of the building. The Mittler Rebbe wrote.
Who owns it today? Who owns it today? Because the Rebbe had no heirs.
So the Rebbe made a tzavor. Don't worry. It's simple. The Agudas Chassidus Chabad own it. It's owned by Agudas Chassidus Chabad. The Rebbe made it a legal organization, and the Rebbe wrote a will, and he wrote it, and he had a lawyer sign it. There's no question who owns it. So the Mittler Rebbe wrote a letter to Chassidim to collect money for Chevron, and he wrote that there's in the Zoyar, and it's also brought in the Megala Mukis, that the gates to heaven of all tefillas go through the Maras HaMachpelah. The question is that the Gemara says Yerushalayim, you have to Yerushalayim. So one answer the Rebbe gives is that it goes through Chevron, but then it ends up Yerushalayim. And like they'd say, "Hey, kol hamizrach ad shebechevron." They would say that in Yerushalayim they would talk about the sichos of Chevron in the morning. But then the Rebbe brings that the Mittler Rebbe writes, and then elsewhere, that it's not just it's the Pesach shel Gan Eden. Al kein atfila shemispalalim eitzel ma'oras hamachpela hiritzuyo mekabelas mamish lefi sheyesh kabola biyadenu shesham hoya pischa shel Gan Eden mamish.
That's why the Arabs wanted so much.
That's why the Meraglim went to daven over there.
Now, therefore, the Rebbe says that that's why it's called Chevron. What's the word Chevron mean? Chibur.
Like the Levim.
They're like Levim. A Reitzeach is the opposite of Chibur. And when a Yid has to be healed, and he wants to do tshuva, and he wants to come close to the Eibishter, he comes to the city of Chevron. Chevron is the Chibur. It's a place where it connects. He connects to the Eibishter, and because these are the office of all the Yidden, so we realize that we're one family. So here is not only will we connect with the Eibishter, we connect with other Jews, because when we go to Chevron, we realize we're really all one family. So Chevron is a place which connects us to each other, and Chevron is a place that connects us to the Eibishter.
Every Jew has a part in Chevron.
So that's the uniqueness. Now we answer the original question. That's why Chevron was the first place, that was the first achuzah that the Jews actually had in Eretz Yisrael, is Dafken Chevron, because of the uniqueness of Chevron. Going back to, so this is all what the Rebbe said, that Fabring in Simchas Torah 40 years ago, and that's, as we said before in the introduction to the Shir, that's that after the Sicha, the Rebbe was the fifth Hakofa, where the Rebbe announced that Mekoim Retzona Shalom Shomon Inza, that if we visualize we're in Chevron, we're really in Chevron, we're now going to do the fifth Hakofa in Chevron. The Rebbe said all the Levim should go up to the fifth Hakofa. You understand now why the Levim went up for that Hakofa? Because Chevron belongs to the Levim. The Rebbe said the Levim should go up for this Hakofa. And when Mr. Chaim, so Ashgocha brought this, when Chaim Herzog came in,
He's a Levi.
he was a Levi, and then he said, give a bracha for my son,
He understood
who is today's leader of Israel's opposition. It's like Isaac Herzog. The Rebbe gave him a bracha, and the Rebbe pointed. He said that I want you, so he pointed to his son. The Rebbe said, I want you to declare to the world that Chevron belongs to you and to your son. And
they used to say about that whole family, they used to call them Chometz Ben Yayin.
So,
Because they're the ones who want to give back Chevron.
so I'm telling you what the Rebbe asked Chaim Herzog. He gave him a brocha for his son, and the Rebbe pointed to the son, I want you to declare. And as we said before, you can take home, you'll read this whole article. He said it terrific, because the Rebbe insisted that he go back to the UN and declare that Chevron belongs to him and his family. He actually followed through on the Rebbe's thing. He gave a terrific sermon, and Kfar Chabad dug up a couple of newspaper clippings of that time, and published it. A terrific interview.
This wasn't long ago. I remember
40 years ago.
No, this
Kfar Chabad in the beginning of this year.
No, it's this year.
Parsha Bereshis in this year. Parsha Bereshis this year. They have it. They had this interview, and as I said, in Chodesh Cheshvan, when the guest went back to Eretz Yisrael, the Rebbe said that Lubavitchers should go from Kfar Chabad and Yerushalayim, they should take buses, and they should all go to Chevron, and they should continue that fifth hakofa that they did in 770 in Chevron. They should continue in the Moras HaMachpelah, in Chevron in Kodesh. Ebish shall help.
This Shabbos they're making a big Shabbos in Chevron.
It's a big Shabbos in Chevron. It's 40. It's 40 years since the story, and it's 50 years since Yidna Baruch Hashem have liberated Chevron. That but it's not a full liberation. So the Ebish shall help that we should this year we should be zoche. There should be with Mashiach Tzidkenu. We should go to Chevron. And we should be neschabet to the Eibishter, neschabet to the Oves, neschabet to Klal Yisrael.
I just want to